Hi everyone, it's Danny. Welcome back to another Cocoa Vanilla Studio design team project. Today I'm going to be using this sweet little photo of my baby girl, and I am going to be featuring the cut apart sheet in the new Daydream collection. This paper is called Happy Place, and I was immediately drawn to cutting this apart as soon as I got the collection. And that little piece that has kind of a wood grain frame and then an oval circle in the middle was just calling out to me to have the center cut out and be made into a frame. So I went ahead with my little scissors and a craft knife and carefully cut out that central element and just left all those little florals intact, as well as the wood grain frame. And that photo just nestles perfectly inside that little oval and makes a perfect little frame, and it's nice and dimensional. I love all those little florals at the bottom. So I've gone ahead, as you can see, and cut out the rest of the cut apart sheet, and I'm going to use a lot of those elements on this page. I'm going ahead and cutting out the center of this paper, the beautiful rainbow stripe, which is called Stepping Stones, and I am going to go ahead and glue my mixed media weight white cardstock onto the top of that. So I cut out the center of the paper because I want to save that part. It's a bit of a waste adding the whole sheet of paper behind that cardstock when it's not going to be seen, and it also adds extra bulk to your albums, which is something to keep in mind. So cutting out that center really helps to keep that down, and I can use it on another layout. I've gone ahead and printed my photo at a 3x4" size, and those cut apart elements are the perfect size for that. So those are all 3x4, those rectangle cards. So I'm just going to go ahead and stick my photo behind that frame, and I'm just trimming off that little bit that I had to bump the photo down so it fit perfectly inside the frame. And I'm going to go ahead and distress all the edges of the pieces I'm going to use as well. So I don't do all of this on camera, but just be assured that I do distress all the edges. I just find that it adds lots of texture and dimension and extra interest, and it's not just a bunch of squares and rectangles cut out. So I'm just going ahead with these larger cards, and I am sketching out my design basically. I know I want to do a bit of a diagonal design. That is my favorite preferred type of design for a page like this, or most pages really. It just really helps to draw the eye across the page. Once I have those larger pieces set out where I want them, I'm going to come in with a few of these smaller pieces, the labels and some of the smaller phrase pieces. I do end up using that little white label with the yellow dots around the edges at the bottom, and that will be a nice little journaling spot. I'm also going to add one of the smaller labels up the top here just to add some color. These are a few of my favorite things. Card is mostly white, so it was disappearing a bit into the background. That little blue label just helps to stop that disappearing. So that smaller blue label is actually off the 6x8 paper stack cut apart. So this paper is also in the smaller version. There's just not quite as many pieces on that. So that is a really good option for when you need a smaller piece to kind of fill in some of these larger pieces. So I'm going in with those scissors yet again and distressing all those edges. If you have an edge distresser, that would be ideal for this. I do just use my scissors. I keep meaning to pick up an edge distresser. It's just not something that I ever remember to do. So I'm just using my good old little scissors. And the good thing about the Cocoa Vanilla Studio paper is that it is nice and thick and really amazing quality, so it doesn't tear or get ruined by using scissors instead of an edge distresser. I am going to go ahead and add some mixed media. I love a bit of mixed media, and on a white background like this I almost always use some kind of color just to brighten it up and make it not so plain. I really do struggle with a blank white space, so this really helps to jazz it up a little bit. So this is it's like a little solid watercolor pot that I have had for years and years and years. It still works really nicely. So it's just a nice soft blush pink. I'm adding some water and just stirring it up to get that color going. They are quite shimmery as well. They're kind of an off-brand. I couldn't tell you what the brand was, so I'm just going through and painting that on. You can see I'm just splodging it on with a paintbrush. I'm not being particularly careful. I just had all my pieces laid out and got a rough idea of where they were going to sit so that I can place my watercolor where it is going to be peeking out from all my little elements on the page. I'm just going through and splodging that down, and I'm going to add Here I'm going to add some water and kind of stir it up and get more of the pigment into the liquid. So the thing with these paints is the more water you add, the kind of paler they will be, and the less water you add and sort of more you stir up the pigment, the more concentrated they will be. So I'm just going in with some splatters here, and we'll come in a minute with some more concentrated color. So there you go. There's not a lot of water left, so I'm really sort of stirring up that pigment and getting a little bit more concentrate so that I can have a bit of depth and variation in color. So you can see this blue I'm about to use is very, very bright. It's quite intense. So I'm adding quite a bit of water, and then I'm just dipping my brush in very lightly. I'm not soaking my brush much at all because I just want a light blue. So I'm just getting a touch of the color on the edge and wiping most of it off, and then yeah, just brushing it on. So I'm going to just go ahead and fill in some of those gaps with this blue. Again, just wiping most of that color off. I've got a tissue there as well. You can see that I'm kind of wiping off the extra color. Add a few splatters, and that has just gone ahead and dried off camera. I'm going to pop all my bits and pieces back on the way I had them. If you're not sure that you're going to be able to get your pieces back on, it's a good idea just to snap a little photo with your phone, and then you can come back and arrange them all again. And I'm pretty sure that's what I did with this layout. So that's just an easy way to do that. Going to go ahead and stick all those down. I know none of these are going to move. I've got my layout pretty much done. All I need to do now is come in and add a few embellishments, and I don't want these pieces moving around while I embellish because that can get quite annoying. And now that I know what my layout is going to look like, I'm pretty comfortable to stick everything down, so that will just make my life a little bit easier. So I'm just using a tacky glue in a fine liner bottle here, just really finessing those pieces. So I really want some of those stripes on that remember card to be visible. I really like the stripy design in the background of that. And I'm just going to layer this over the top so you can still see that full word on the remember card. Tuck those in there. There we go, I love that. I'm just going to add a few lines of journaling down the bottom here using a grey fine liner pen. We were just out to lunch this day, I think. So just me and my husband and my little girl. My son was at school, so just pop that in and the date. And then I'll come in with just a few embellishments. This page doesn't need a lot now. I really didn't want to overwhelm it too much. So I know I want to get one of these sweet little puffy hearts on. So I'm going to use that yellow. I just adore the pops of yellow in this collection. I'm really, really enjoying yellow at the moment. So I'm really pleased that there's plenty of those bright pops of yellow in this collection. So I'm going to add a few clusters of hearts. And I'm going to use that flare as one of the hearts in this cluster up here. So she's so sweet, little eyelashes. So I'm going to pop in those hearts there. I'm using a mixture of die cut hearts and sticker hearts. Popped in that little sunshine sticker. I just didn't like that kind of empty corner there. It was just looking a little bit odd, so that sticker helps to fill in that gap. I'm going to create another little cluster of hearts down here. Just fussing around, moving them around. I was trying to get a good variation of colours and sizes in each cluster. There we go. So that is all done. I'm going to stick everything down. These puffy hearts adhere down really nicely just with a bit of wet glue on the back I found. So there we go, just a spot of glue behind all the bits and pieces, get them all stuck down. I'm going to add this little die cut tab in at the top of my photo, just helps to fill in that little space. Next, I'm going to come in with some little dimensional drops just in a gloss white. I'll add 3 groups of 3 of those, just following those little heart clusters that I've created. And the very last thing I'm going to add is this other element from the cut apart sheet, the little strip of hearts. I'm just going to snip off a section of that. I've distressed it off camera. And I'm just going to tuck it in here. I just felt like this little corner was a bit empty too. And that will be my layout finished. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to check the description box for the blog post for this layout if you would like to read about the process. And thank you for joining me. Close-ups coming up. I'll see you next time. Bye.